Sasvim je jasno da su za punu geopolitičku bezbednost Srbije i srpskog naroda potrebni stabilni, sadržajni, partnerski odnosi sa Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama. Potrebno nam je strateško partnerstvo sa Vašingtonom, a ako to postignemo, strategija srpske spoljne politike oslonca na 4 velika geopolitička stuba, odnosno političke tačke moći, bit će apsolutno kompletirana. Zato je neobično važno da znamo da se i Amerika menja. Najbolji izraz te promene jeste delovanje administracije predsjednika Sjedinjenih Američkih Država Donalda Trampa i njega lično. Hoće li Trump uspeti da prevaziđe duboke sociološke podele unutar američkog društva ili će tamo izbiti građanski rat? Da li će u svetu zavladati Pax Americana ili makar u njegovoj zapadnoj hemisferi? Sve to pokušat ćemo da saznamo u razgovoru sa izuzetno uvaženim predstavnikom američkog političkog života, advokatom i izvršnim direktorom Republikanaca za nacionalnu obnovu, političke organizacije koja promoviše duhovne, sociološke i filozofske vrednosti republikanske stranke u Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama. Zato nam je neobična čast da vam predstavimo gospodina Marka Ivanjoa. Mr. Ivanjo, first of all, welcome to Serbia, welcome to Novi Sad, welcome to Troglas TV show and to documentary television. It is a great honor and privilege to have you here, and of course I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's great to be back here, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Yes, well, we shall start from your organization, if you agree. Could you tell us a few words about your organization? I'm not sure how familiar our viewers are with the work of your organization, its structure, its core goals, and so on. And how is your organization structured? What are your what are its core political goals of your organization, and where does it fit with an American political and legal system?
Sure, that's a great question. And so Republicans for National Renewal, it's a nonprofit organization, so similar to what you know here as an NGO.
Yeah.
We have a primary mission, which is domestic in the United States, which is to push the Republican Party away from the America Last establishment and more towards the America First grassroots. And what I mean by that is kind of the average American voter, the working class, make it a party of the people again. And so what that means is basically replacing the current establishment Republicans, the people that you know as anti-Trump, the never-Trumpers, the rhinos, as President Trump calls them, rhino meaning Republican in name only, and putting them with more conservative, usually Christian representatives. And so that means taking over the Republican Party from the grassroots level up, so at the local level, and then at the state level, and then at the federal level as well. And you know, when we first started in 2020, there were maybe a handful of what we would call America First representatives in Congress.
We remember that,
now,
yes.
Yeah, and now we're probably looking at more like 25 or 30, and then maybe there's 60 who every now and then do vote in line with President Trump. And part of our motivation to start our organization was that we saw President Trump fighting the radical left, which we expect, but then he was fighting members of his own party. They would go out and give speeches praising Trump, and then they'd vote against him most of the time, and we thought that was unacceptable. And so that's our main primary core mission. But then we have our international mission as well, and which is part of why I'm here, which is to kind of build this bridge between these America First patriots in America, whether they're influencers, members of Congress, senators, and connect them with their counterparts in Europe. Because there are a lot of...
and that is something what Serbia need, actually.
Right.
We're praising for that.
Because there's a lot of conservatives in Europe and in Serbia especially who would agree with most of the policies supported by these America First representatives in the United States. And so that's really what we want to do, is we just want to facilitate, build that bridge, and have that cooperation between true conservatives in America and true conservatives, nationalists, populists, whatever you want to call them, the people who represent the people first and foremost.
Yes. You said conservatives, but we are just a community who wants to keep our way of life. Nothing more. And you said already, major U.S. media outlets often describe your organization as a far right or radical right wing populists. And of course, we are speaking about left liberal media outlets. Similar labels are frequently used in Serbia as well. I don't know what that means actually. In political terms, what do those labels actually mean?
Look, they really just mean that you disagree with the left.
Nothing more.
You know, we've had members of Congress.
I'm sorry, are they accurate?
No, absolutely not. I mean, far right, I don't know what that means. Our country, if we agree with the founding fathers of America, they call you far right. But they're the ones who established America. Shouldn't that be the middle position?
Yeah.
And then anything to the right of that would be right, and then anything to the left of that would be leftist.
Yeah.
And so we just espouse the same values that the founding fathers had, and they still call us far right. So it's just a way to smear. We've had at our events sitting elected.
They are waging war against founding fathers.
Right, they hate the country, they hate the founding fathers, and that's what it is. It's just an ideological battle, and they use those terms to slander people, and I'm sure that, you know, you've been on the receiving end of that, and you know, a lot of Serbian patriots have heard, well, you're just a far right, you know, loon or kook, and we shouldn't listen to you because of that. But really, far right just means you want to protect your country and serve its people.
Yeah. The world is watching unrest in Minneapolis and protests across the United States. From your perspective, what is really happening there? And specifically, how do you respond to critics who portray ICE as Trump paramilitary forces? I read in some newspapers that description that ICE is Trump paramilitary forces or some kind of police, militia.
Yeah, that's
despite the fact that the agency predates the first Trump administration.
Right, and that's what I was going to get to, is that ICE is just doing its job now. They've been unleashed, and Trump has facilitated them doing their job, and they're being called his paramilitary, but really they should have been doing this the whole time. I mean, that's their job, is to deport people who come here illegally. What's happening in Minnesota really is kind of a astroturfed fake protest, and what I mean by that is that people are being paid to go and agitate. Antifa is there. They're a terrorist domestic organization, and they're working with military precision. They have a group chat. They're tipping each other off. Oh, ICE is over here. Let's go disrupt them. And they're actively working against ICE, which is illegal. They should be prosecuted.
So they have a provocative agenda.
Correct. And there's been people found advertisements, right, in Craigslist or other job forums where they say, hey, come protest, especially if you're a tough guy. Mm-hmm. We're going to pay you this amount of money. Come out to Minneapolis and protest. And so you're finding a lot of people aren't even from Minneapolis who are there protesting and impeding ICE operations. And we've seen that all across the country, where if there's an incident that happens in any specific state, the Antifa agitators a lot of times don't even live in that community. They don't live in that state. And maybe that's the case here. I know in Europe.
So they are professional protesters.
Correct. You're getting paid for it. It's not that they woke up one day, they saw the news, and they naturally decided, well, I don't like that, I'm going to go protest. No, they went online and saw an advertisement. Hey, if you're a left-wing guy and you don't like this administration, we're going to pay you to come here and cause trouble, wreak a little havoc, disrupt the police, blow your whistles, create a blockade so that emergency vehicles can't come in and out. And I think even in Europe, you have a lot of Antifa who don't even reside where they're protesting, right? They came from Germany or they came from some other country. They went to your incident and they protested, and then they went back home.
We have something here.
That's what I've heard.
I know what you're talking about. Speaking of Serbia, are you familiar with the political climate in Serbia? Some political subjects here claim that foreign-supported left liberal networks are attempting to influence domestic politics through what we call color revolution. How do you understand internal political divisions and tensions in Serbia? Are you familiar about it?
Yes, I am. I think it's really happening. I don't think it's unique to Serbia. I think it's been happening all around the world where these NGOs come in and they want to influence and erode national identity in favor of a more communist style, leftist woke agenda.
And speaking of Serbia, we are facing complex geopolitical choices. In your view, what strategic direction should Serbia take regarding the war in Ukraine, relations with the European Union, NATO expansion, and instability in the Middle East?
That's a great question. There's a lot of key points there. I think when it comes to the Ukraine war, I mean, obviously neutrality and peace. Yes. I understand that Serbia
yes,
has a good
that
working
is our
relationship,
position.
right, with Russia, and so it makes sense. Why would you go against Russia directly like that? You know, President Trump wants peace. I think the Hungarian position is also very similar. They want to facilitate peace because they work with Russia too.
Absolutely similar.
They don't want to alienate Russia. Unfortunately, the war is still going on. I think President Trump was hoping to get peace a lot sooner, but he hasn't pledged any new support to Ukraine. I think there's still old contracts being fulfilled, so Ukraine is still getting some support, but you know, it's an untenable war. Ukraine is losing as far as I can tell, and so you know,
what was the cause of war, in your opinion?
It seems to me like NATO was expanding a lot.
Yes.
And personally, it's not, you know, the party position, but it seems to me like NATO was established to fight against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union hasn't been in existence in a long time, and so it's interesting to me why they keep expanding more and more eastward. And so I can see Russia's position when it comes to that. They don't want tanks in their backyard. At the same time, you know, the West doesn't want to be conquered by Russia. So there's conflicting interests, but it seems to me like NATO has kind of outlived its purpose in a way. And, you know, Ukraine wanted to join NATO, and that was a big problem. So hopefully we can have peace and stabilize that region. And
but what would be the solution for Ukraine?
That's a good question. Maybe they have to give up part of their land, is what I'm understanding, based on the current negotiations. It's a complex issue.
Yes,
you
of
know?
course
You can't
it
really. It's tough to tell, but
yes,
I mean, they're already losing, right? So if they continue, they're just going to lose a lot more lives and probably still have to give up some land. So maybe a better option is to give up some land and not lose the lives. You know.
And how do you understand a Russian position? What they actually want in Ukraine? Of course, you said they prevent Ukraine to join NATO. They were never against European integration of Kiev, but NATO is a different thing for Russia.
Right.
But what is your point of view? What is your opinion? What they actually want? Is it those four areas, those four regions, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, Lugansk, and Kherson, or they want something more?
I don't think they want anything more. It seems to me like it's very convenient for them to say, well, those lands belong to Russia. A lot of people there affiliate with the Russian language. They're essentially Russians in a way. That's their argument, at least. And so I can understand that. And I think that makes it convenient. So they can say, well, we want to take this back, and some of the people there support it anyway. And so that's why we're doing it. I don't think that their ambitions extend beyond that. From what I can tell, you know, that could always change. But that seems to me like it's just a matter of convenience that, well, these people seem to support us. They speak Russian, and so we want to just go in there and take it.
And what is your assessment of Bosnia and Herzegovina and broader Western Balkans? Do you see the region moving towards stability or not?
You know, I haven't looked into that too much. It seems to me like those areas have a little stronger Islamic influence.
Yes.
And so it's a little incompatible with the rest of Europe. But they don't seem to be radical Islamists in the same way that you see maybe Afghanistan or Pakistani Sunni Muslims.
I disagree with you when we are speaking about Bosnia and Herzegovina and Bosnian civil war. Al-Qaeda was there, and Islamic terrorists first appeared in Europe during 90s, actually. But that's a whole different story.
Sure.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't looked too much into that, so I'm not, I can't really comment too much on that.
And what is your opinion about Visegrad Group? And should Serbia seek closer alignment with the Visegrad Group, with Hungary? We are a great ally of Hungary and Slovakia, of course, and we are a partner of Czech Republic. What is your opinion? What is the position of Central European political bloc?
That makes sense to me because really the Visegrad Group is looked at very highly by a lot of patriotic Americans because they're kind of holding that line of conservatism. They're against the mass migration. They believe in defending their borders, their sovereignty, and Christianity. And so I think if Serbia were to join them, it would make sense. I mean, the countries are very well aligned. You want neutrality with the Ukraine and Russian conflict, and that just makes sense, really. I think they should have a lot more power, given that they're the countries located right there between Western Europe and then Russia. And so they'd be a great kind of facilitator of any kind of peace negotiation, but also just kind of it builds stability in the region. They are part of that border that would prevent North Africans and the Middle East from coming over. I know Hungary's done a great job of securing their border and preventing a lot of the so-called refugees from coming into Europe. So if they can all cooperate together, then that makes sense.
They're very strict about that policy.
Right, and they were very genius in that they cooperated with the EU because they said that the EU says you have to let them onto your land, right? So Hungary built their fences about 5 meters away from their border so that they said we let them onto our land and then we denied them. Genius.
Yeah. President Trump wanted to do the same thing on the southern borders of United States. Did he ask Mr. Orban for opinion or for some tips about it? What do you think?
I don't know if he did, but I know that just President Trump being in office is a deterrent. A lot of illegals say, well, he's in there, I don't want to go in. And so we've seen the crossings themselves go down tremendously. We've built more of the wall, but even if there's an area where the wall is weak or we don't have much of a wall, the illegals are thinking, if I go in, they're just going to send me right back, so I don't want to go in. And so his presence alone is a strong deterrent.
And Visegrad Group, yes, that is the Central European political bloc. But we know Poland is one of the members of Visegrad Group, and we know about the hostile environment in relations between Poland and Russia. And you said that could be the platform for facilitating some peace negotiations or peace agreement. How?
Well, so I mean, that's one country out of the other countries that are in the actual agreement. I think the majority of Visegrad Group would like to see peace. And I understand that Poland has a different position, perhaps. They actually encourage Ukraine, and they want the conflict in a way. They want to push back against Russia. But it's one country within the agreement. So you may have some disagreement there, but I don't think that would necessarily prevent a peace deal being made.
And if we are speaking about Visegrad Group, we have to mention European Union. Topic for Trump administration, second Trump administration. Of course, Serbia is in the process of European integration, very hard one. But where is the European Union heading? Is it consolidating its power or entering a period of structural, political, spiritual, economic crisis?
Well, the European Union, I think, has largely been a disaster in a lot of ways. It was initially
That
formed.
is my opinion too, I have to say.
It was initially formed to just be a trade union, right? And now it's become something like a federal government in the United States, but people aren't necessarily elected to those positions of power. I mean, I know they have the MEPs, but it seems like the people in Brussels are dictating policy for a lot of the other countries. And so I'm not sure how long they can keep doing that. A lot of the countries are disagreeing with their policy instructions. They're using money to bribe countries to accept LGBTQ policies, for example, or accept showing children LGBTQ things, and countries who reject that are punished, right? Mm-hmm. I think Hungary's been punished for that.
Poland
very
as
much
well.
So, Poland, yeah. And so if you're a Christian country and you're committed to your values, you're going to have a tough time being in the EU. And how much longer can this continue for? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
What is your opinion?
I'm not sure it can continue that long. I can't say a specific date, but eventually people are going to say, hey, we just can't keep being part of this where you're imposing a certain ideology on us. We say no, and then you punish us for it economically. And that's kind of the incentive for Serbia to join the EU, right, is that it's going to boost the economy a little bit. And it seems to me like a lot of countries, including Bulgaria, by the way, which recently adopted the euro, and now you're selling a part of your tradition in a way for some economic benefit. And I understand some people, sometimes you have to do that. But the economy should work for the people, not the people for the economy. The whole point is that you preserve your traditions, your identity, your culture, and your religion. And if you're going to sacrifice so much of that for the economy, then maybe it's not worth it. I can't make that decision, obviously.
Of course.
No, people have to weigh that. It's the politician's job. But it seems to me like a lot of countries who joined the European Union accepted the euro over their own currency, kind of sell a certain part of their identity to the EU, and the EU doesn't want any country to have their own cultural identity, from what I've seen.
Yes. Is that a reason, all what you said now, is that a reason for disputes between official Washington and Brussels?
Yes, I think, J.D. Vance went over and gave a speech to the EU, and he was welcomed by some and unwelcomed by many others. But we watch from the United States what's happening at the EU and what they're doing, and it seems like they have a mission to destroy everything European. Anything they touch, it seems like they're against the Europeans themselves. They want to open up the borders, bring in migrants, and they want to help out criminals. They want to be easy on criminals. And so we're very dismayed by that. We don't like to see that, and we think that if Europe falls, of course, we're next. And so we're paying attention to that. And, we're really hoping that things change. If it keeps going on this certain path, Americans are worried that it's going to come to us.
So in some way, President Trump is protecting European way of life, European culture, in your opinion?
I think he appreciates it a lot. I think he wants Europe to thrive, actually. I mean, they're a great ally of ours. A lot of different countries in Western Europe, Central and Eastern Europe. I'm not sure there's a whole lot he can do. He's representing America first, right?
Of course.
He goes there and he negotiates with the leaders of the European Union. He points out that they're not paying their fair share of NATO and other things of that nature. So his first commitment is America. But I think, he wants to see Europe thrive, and he doesn't like what's going on with these mass migration in Europe. In fact, we have the same problem, and he's trying to solve that in our country. And I think he's encouraging European leaders, hey, you need to take care of your countries, or you're not going to have them for much longer.
Let's speak about your country now. But first, could you explain what is Trump doctrine? First of all, what is the definition of that of those terms? And in geopolitical relations on the American continent, what is Trump doing? Particularly in the context of intervention in Venezuela last year.
So I guess you'd call it the MAGA, Make America Great Again doctrine, or the America First doctrine. And really it's quite simple. It basically just says take care of your own people first. It doesn't mean that you have to hate your neighbor or not help your neighbor. It just means that in a very simple context, you have a family, right? You take care of your family, you feed your children, and then your neighbor has a tough time. After you take care of your family, then you go to your neighbor and you can help them out. You can cooperate with them, you can work on projects together, but your number one commitment is to your own family. And that's what the America First vision is American people first. So that's on the economy, American workers, for example. There's a big issue with H-1B visas, which is legal immigration, but they're coming to work and take Americans' jobs. There's illegals who are coming and taking Americans' jobs. So those are the forefront issues. The foreign policy, it means that why is America getting involved if the American people are not getting a benefit? You shouldn't just go and give money to countries who hate you for no reason. American citizens should have a say in it, and they should have a benefit in it. And so that's kind of the broad view of what the MAGA doctrine is. In terms of, what was your other question? So you asked a few.
In terms of, in context, actually, of Trump's or American intervention in Venezuela.
Oh yeah, in Venezuela. So that's a great question. Some people were a little confused by that. We were wondering, why did we do that?
We were shocked.
Yeah, we were.
Actually,
it was impressive how easy it was to do, how effective the U.S. military was.
Was it U.S. military or Venezuelan officers? And
it might have been a little bit of both, right? Maybe there's some cooperation, but people were saying, well, wow, the military for the U.S. is very impressive, very fast, they got the job done, they were in and out. On the other side, though, people are asking, well, why did we do it? There's a lot of countries we don't like with dictators, and we don't go and take them out. We don't do anything with them because they're their own country, they're sovereign. And so it's a little tough to explain how that aligns with the Make America Great Again agenda with the MAGA. I think probably the best explanation is that we've had a lot of immigrants coming from Venezuela. It's been a communist country for a long time, and they have a lot of resources that could be useful. And I think President Trump even mentioned that they have a lot of oil that we could use. And so that's probably the best explanation I can think of right now. But I'm not sure it was completely popular with the supporters of President Trump, if you know what I'm saying.
I know.
People were just kind of, nice. That was very impressive, but what's the end goal here?
Yes, a few years ago I was in U.S., in New York and Washington, and many people, working class people, told me that they were immigrants, not illegal immigrants, but regular immigrants, refugees from the war zones across the world. They said to me that they will vote for Trump in 2024 presidential election, because he is a man of peace. He will bring peace to America, to the Western Hemisphere, civilization, and to the world. That was their perspective.
Right.
And many critics and many political institutions, scientific institutions, they thought that Trump would keep America on their own continent, and that he will lead isolation policy. How do you explain?
Well, first I'll
not
say,
only intervention in Venezuela, but his whole foreign policy right now?
Well, first, New York and Washington, D.C. are probably some of the worst places to visit in America. So I'm sorry to hear that you had to go there. But they are.
Do you recommend me something else?
Yeah, probably Texas,
Okay.
where the southern states are a little better. I might be a little biased being from Texas, but yeah, to your question, yeah, it's very interesting in that, I think he's very peace-minded. He wants to make a deal. But President Trump has said if we need to go to war, we're going to be in and out. We're not going to do 10 years in Iraq like we did before. We're not going to be 15 years in Afghanistan. And so I don't think he's opposed to war necessarily, but he does want resolution. He wants peace. Hopefully, even the Venezuela incident, I wouldn't call that getting into war. I mean, it's military action, but it was very quick, it was very swift, it didn't cost any American lives, and so...
But it was unpopular.
Right, from that perspective, I mean, he's still holding to his values in a way. It wasn't very popular with his base, but also was, I can't say that it wasn't very... It was a mixed reaction from his base, I'll say that much, because there were people who said, well, yeah, it's nice, but why? But then there's other people who said, wow, that was great, incredible, we took out this communist dictator, and they really supported it. So I can't really say that it's unpopular necessarily, because that's not a war. If he went to war against Venezuela, I think that would be very unpopular with his base. If we were to go to war against Iran, that would be very unpopular with his base. But a quick military operation, I think that's a little more nuanced. You're not going to see the same pushback from his base. At the other hand, I think people forget that President Trump is not going to be running for re-election, so he's maybe not as sensitive about his support from the base, which could be very unfortunate. We voted for him because he was unique. He was different than the establishment. He promised things that we hadn't heard in many years. I haven't heard in my lifetime. The dream of America first, and putting the citizens first. So hopefully he doesn't ruin that, but I think there's some skepticism within the base that they're saying, well, if we get into another war under Trump, we're not going to be very happy. But again, the Venezuela thing, that was not a war, that was decisive military action. We were out of there, and now it's not even in the news cycle anymore, so people aren't really thinking about it, and I hope it stays that way.
I'm not supporting that action in Venezuela. I cannot support that kind of intervention, but I am supporter of President Trump, great supporter. Many people in Serbia, actually. And when we speaking about, you said it, he is unique. No one, neither one American president before Donald Trump never done that in his
last 40, 50 years. We haven't seen anything like that.
I think there were many American presidents who done the same thing, but in other methods. As we can all remember, President Bush Jr. in Iraq, President Obama in Libya. Muammar al-Gaddafi was killed in Libya in 2011. President of Iraq, Saddam Hussein. I don't evaluating his rule or his policy, but he was captured, and later Iraqi court made decision, and the Iraqi government or Iraqi authorities executed him. Now, President Trump is more honest. He did it by his forces. For me, that is honesty.
But it's still different, though. President Trump, I mean, it was a one-day operation. What you're talking about that happened in Iraq, that was years, and we committed many American troops. Many Americans died fighting those wars. No Americans died in President Trump's military action. So I think there's a distinction to be made there where Trump really has not fallen into his predecessor's actions.
Yes. And of course, we have to mention two topics. Or one, Greenland and the Arctic. They have become strategic topics. How do you understand President Trump's interest in those regions?
I think I haven't looked too much into the Arctic, but the Greenland interest is very clear, I think. There's a good geopolitical position there, and he wanted to have access to it, and I think he struck a deal that gave us that access. It wasn't exactly what he wanted at first, right? He wanted ownership of Greenland, but I think to the extent he got what he wanted, he did a good job. There's no really complaints about that. We don't hear about it much in the news. The base isn't too concerned about that. They think it's kind of nice that he negotiated that it's kind of like the Gulf of America. You know, Trump made that happen, and we thought, okay, we like that. And that's pretty much it. We haven't heard much about it since then.
I support American interests in Greenland, and I recommend Danish government to try to not look back to the past and to find some agreement and understandable word with official Washington. They could establish a Danish community of municipalities, actually. Like they are recommending us to do the same thing in Kosovo. So why not?
Yeah.
Finally, do you foresee a possible US and Israeli intervention in Iran? More broadly, how do you see the global order evolving over the next decade?
You know, that's really problematic in a way in that I think it's anticipated that we will likely go to war with Iran. And I think if that were to happen, President Trump's going to lose a lot of his support, his base. I think about 79% of people in America oppose military intervention into Iran.
Yes.
And so if President Trump were to do that, I mean, he would lose his base, essentially. We didn't vote for him to go into war with any country, really, unless it was absolutely needed, and I don't think that's absolutely needed. People are questioning what's the American interest in going to war with Iran? How do American citizens benefit from that? And it's not clear. We don't have any real answers for that. And so I'm hoping.
And you don't see benefits of
I don't see any real benefits for American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe it helps out Israel, and that's fine. I know they're our ally, but we don't want to sacrifice American lives and go into Iran. And Iran's a fairly powerful country. They're very developed. They have a strong military. So it's not going to be like Venezuela where you just go in and out. That's going to be a drag-out war, and it's going to be unpopular with the American people. Not just President Trump's base, but just the people. The average American doesn't support that. So, you know, I'm hoping we don't see that. A lot of people within the Trump administration, or people who are affiliated with the Trump administration, they're saying, we don't want to do that, please don't do that. And it could be that President Trump is sending a lot of military in that area, and he's using that as leverage to negotiate with Iran. And maybe they'll make some kind of a deal. We've already tried to make a deal with Iran. I know it didn't work out quite as well as we'd like to, but I think that's still on the table. So I don't, you know, just because we have military forces moving to that region doesn't mean we are going to go to war, but we're preparing. And hopefully there can be some kind of negotiation, and we don't have to do that. President Trump has made his demands clear. He said you can't be proliferating nuclear power. He has some other demands as well, but I don't think it's an inevitability.
And what if the Iranians reject all those offers?
Right. So then I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know if it's an inevitability that we'll go to war. I just think that it's a possibility, and it's a little higher of a possibility than I would like. And so we're basically asking the Trump administration to avoid that war. The base isn't going to support it. The people aren't going to support it. It's going to cost American lives and American money, and hopefully it doesn't come to that.
And Iran is a critical geopolitical point. It is the place which is crucial for China's economic and political interests in West. Do you think that that could be the reason for intervention for the Americans, for the United States, for Trump, actually? Not for all Americans, of course. They don't support, you said that, that they don't support war between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. But what if Trump administration or his advisors, what if they can understand that if they don't intervene now, in some 10 years or 20 years, Iran will be crucial for China's expansion to the West?
I don't think they're really thinking about that too much. I know that Iran has threatened to cripple the United States in energy production if the United States were to move against them militarily. And I know that they are allied with China, and I've heard rumors that maybe Russia might be involved as well if there were to be a war. But really, I think it's jumping the gun. It's going too fast forward to make all those kind of assumptions. I think the best assumption to make is that negotiations will happen. We'll see what comes of those negotiations, and if those negotiations fall flat, now it's going to be up to President Trump and what he wants to do, because we all know Israel wants war with Iran. They've been wanting war with Iran. The United States was negotiating with Iran, and Israel came in and started attacking them. They essentially sabotaged the negotiations in a way. But we know that America has their goals, which is peace, and Israel wants war, and so we're going to have to work those things out, right? We're going to have to talk to the Israeli government and say, we can't support you if you're going to be that aggressive. We want to work out a deal here. We're acting as a mediator between Israel and Iran, and it's very tough when you have two parties that really don't like each other and they're going at it. As a lawyer, I deal with that all the time. So it's not an easy job, but I think that's the first step, and I don't want to speculate too much as to, what if the Iranians are so unreasonable that they reject all efforts for peace? Because I don't think they really want war. I think they're a little open. But it seems to me like Israel really wants war. So we'll see what happens with that. But I first want to see what happens with the negotiations before we decide, well, if those fall through, what's going to happen next?
And my final question, can you foresee global order in, I don't know, in the next decade? Would it be multi-cultural, multi-political system in the world, or can you give us your point of view in that matter?
Sure. I don't see that there is a peaceful, stable future when it comes to multiculturalism. I think we've seen that it's failed in a lot of countries, particularly in the West, the United States, Western Europe, where we've brought in so many different cultures. They don't get along with the native culture, which is Christian, European ancestry. And so if it continues the way it is, no, I don't see a lot of stability in the future. In fact, I see something has to break, something has to give. And a great example of that is in the UK. That place is all but conquered by Islam and immigrants in general. And I can't.
Will Trump arrest Mr. Starmer?
that would be nice. I would support that. But it's something has to give. That's the point. That either the people are going to be tired of it, they're going to rise, or someone in the government's going to do something, get elected, and take power. But I don't see how that's sustainable. People don't want to visit the UK anymore because of what's going on there. The high crime, high migration. People don't want to visit Paris because it's no longer France. So, no, there's no stability with that. Something's going to happen. I don't know what, but there's going to be some kind of maybe revolution or protests. I know it's happening a lot in France. In America too. I mean, unless President Trump really restores order through ICE and deports a lot of illegals. But even if he does
is America in danger of a civil war?
Yes, I'd say so. People have been talking about it for a long time. It's very divided when it comes to conservative versus liberal. But the problem is that liberals have a lot of funding from the NGOs, from George Soros, and so it's not natural. It's people that are being paid to agitate. They hate the country, they hate the values, they hate Christianity. And so, I don't know about a full-blown civil war. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think you're going to see a lot of conflicts in different states, similar to what you're seeing in Minnesota, but I think it's going to pass on through different areas, and conservatives and liberals are going to fight a little bit, and there's going to be police involved, and I don't see a lot of stability in the near future until we can solve those issues, especially of immigration and national sovereignty for any country.
Yeah. And relations between global powers, are there going to be a great war?
I don't foresee a great war, at least under President Trump. Now, if someone else comes in, maybe that might change, but I think President Trump is very much against protracted wars. And what I mean by that is, again, like a quick operation in Venezuela is a lot different than we're going to war for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I think Trump is so opposed to that, it's not going to happen under his watch. But I'm not sure what's going to happen in 2028.
It was a great honor and privilege for me to speak with you tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Još jednom, vi, naši gledaoci, bili ste treći glas u Troglasu. Kako će izgledati Amerika u narednom periodu, a za njom i svet, vidjet ćemo. Na to uostalom i ne možemo da utičemo. No, naša briga mora da bude Srbija i na njenu budućnost itekako imamo uticaja. Bio je ovo još jedan Troglas. Gledajte nas svakog ponedeljka od 20 časova, kao i u repriznim terminima. Do sledećeg druženja želimo vam svako dobro.